Jake Paul, one of the most infamously annoying former pro YouTuber turned boxer bros, has found himself in the spotlight again after verbally attacking UFC star Conor McGregor. In today's video, we're going to be covering the entire incident and the fallout it could have. And trust me, you are not going to want to miss a single second of this video. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. First up, what's got Jake all in a tizzy? The Paul brothers are excellent at opening their mouths and spewing out verbal diarrhea when nobody asks for their opinion. And yet, somehow, they're still allowed to be famous. Regardless, Jake Paul has been absolutely incensed with UFC champion and fellow celebrity head case Conor McGregor lately, and I'm sure that you're all dying to find out just what happened. Jake Paul found himself in the middle of a battle that wasn't supposed to have anything to do with him during the Taylor versus Madison Serrano fight that took place on Saturday, April 30th. Now, before I go and throw Jake Paul completely under the metaphorical bus, let me say that he did technically have a horse in the race because he promotes Amanda Serrano, but he somehow found a way to steal her thunder after a big win and still make the night all about him. Isn't he just great? Anyways, McGregor was watching the bout as he was there supporting Taylor as a friend and a fan, but still somehow his equally loud mouth helped Jake Paul steal the spotlight. Earlier this year, McGregor posted a response to Jake Paul's pleas to arrange a boxing match between the two of them by calling Jake Paul a jackass. I won't say the rest of the tweet here because it's got, well, demonetizingly stronger profanities that are inappropriate, but seeing as the word jackass is literally used in the movie Shrek, I think I got it. I think I'm good. Anyways, long story short, Jake decided that during the post-fight interview, he was gonna light up Conor in addition to a tweet that he sent directly to McGregor himself, because, of course, that would be the best time to do it, right? So, what did Paul say? Most of the time, when you're not actually in the ring and your main reason for attending a fight and conducting a post-fight interview, it's usually because you're a side member of the event and you are far from the main event. But I don't think that ever really flown across Jake Paul's mind, literally once in his life. He always plans on being the main event wherever he goes. So, Paul couldn't resist his chance at decimating Conor McGregor after the big fight on Saturday. Paul firstly responded to McGregor's tweet with a tweet of his own where he said, "I'm the one who has done more for fighters than you ever have. The one who won 5 fights in the past 2 years where you've lost 5. The one who isn't owned by Dana White. The one who made the fight you just watched happen. And the one who got your hero Taylor paid." That's who. The tweet was in response to McGregor taking a shot at the fact that McGregor deems Paul too insignificant to give the time of day, let alone a fight to. So while Paul's words might have been a justifiable emotional outburst, it was still a terrible time to bring it up at your fighter's fight after a huge loss. During his interview, Paul doubled down on his anger and mockery by saying, "He hasn't won a fight in 5 years. Dana White owns him and I'm the one who got Taylor a big payday, and that's his hero." Seems strange that he would literally say that it was him who got Katie her payday instead of giving the credit to, I don't know, the actual fighter that just beat the snot out of the other fighter that he was promoting. Yeah, you know what, whatever, you do you, Jake. You're all good. Paul continued with some insults, including by you throwing quite a hilarious dig at McGregor's short stature, claiming that the Irishman can't ride a roller coaster as he's too short to do so. Obviously, he didn't put it in such a polite way, but does Jake really ever do anything politely? Anyways, Paul continued on by saying that he feels bad for him and that McGregor is apparently ducking him, quote unquote. What does this mean, and what were Jake's intentions? As much as I'd like to say that this was actually something more than just a publicity stunt from Jake Paul, I obviously can't. This move was nothing more than a childish attempt to bait McGregor into scheduling a fight between the two of them. Furthermore, the more beef that Paul can stir up between himself and the UFC star, the more time he spends in the spotlight, and the better odds that he gets attention of Dana White. So I don't know what it is about the Paul brothers and Dana White, but I'm starting to think that White is secretly their stepdad, and they just really want his approval. And White is dead set on never giving them a second of attention. But in all seriousness, Paul was clearly trying to goad one of the best combatants in modern-day gladiator sports into a fight that is straight beneath him. Whatever you think about Conor McGregor, you gotta admit that Jake Paul is beneath him, and what he does is very different than what McGregor does. Paul is a stunt fighter who's put in the work to be in great shape, but he just uses his influence and his money to set up winnable fights. He clearly persuades his opponent to purposefully lose the fight so that he can quickly rise to the ranks and use this insane amount of hatred that has been built up towards him to force fighting fans to watch him hopefully lose. Whereas McGregor has been training for his entire life to be a master at multiple different types of martial arts. He's proven to himself and the world that he was at one point one of the best fighters in the world. While McGregor has since fallen off a bit in popularity due to injuries and losses, he is still 10 times the fighter that Paul will ever be. And he knows that a fight with Jake Paul is the same as ending his career because it's going to make him seem like a fake fighter that's just in it for an easy buck. So, will there ever come a time in which these two fight? Honestly, I say no. I don't think that this fight ever actually happens because as long as McGregor fights in the UFC, Dana White is not going to let McGregor within 25 yards of that clown, as he knows there's going to be a death. Furthermore, Dana and McGregor would never risk an injury while he's active in the UFC, especially if he got said injury from a meaningless stunt fight against a human ick. Additionally, even after McGregor is retired, the age difference is very significant between these fighters. Thus, if Conor fought for a few more years and then tried to get in the ring with a guy as big and young as Jake Paul, yeah, I think that'd be a hard fight for Conor to win. And McGregor is too prideful to put his reputation on the line to fight a much younger and bigger man in a sport that he's never professionally participated in. So I can't see a time or a scenario in which these two fight each other, and I think that Paul he knows that, and he's using it to make McGregor seem like a sissy for not fighting him, thus legitimizing his talent in his own eyes. Paul can say that even McGregor won't fight me, therefore I am a good fighter. It's honestly a great strategy because he knows that either one of the two things can happen. Scenario 1, he continues to mock and goad McGregor into fighting him, and McGregor continues to blow him off and refuse to fight him, so Jake uses that as fuel for other fighters to face him. Or Scenario 2, McGregor eventually does fight Paul as he gets sick of his taunts and decides that he wants to be the first man to shut his mouth for good, thus setting up one of the most anticipated bouts in pro combat sports. It would be the most ordered pay-per-view program of that year, and that's a guarantee. Even if Jake Paul lost, he would secure a gigantic bag, and then he would get to make the excuse, I lost to a pro MMA fighter, for the remainder of his very cushy life. So there is zero downside for Paul if he continues to be an internet menace. So I think that he's gonna continue to do just that, his usual tricks, until they no longer work. So while I don't believe that this fight is ever gonna happen, nothing would make me happier than seeing Paul get straight up smacked by McGregor in a fight. But until that day comes, I guess I'm just gonna have to keep dreaming. And that's all we have for you guys today. So thank you so much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you all in the next one.